guys, welcome to the first wrap up of the year. For those who enjoy longer videos, well, today's your day. I have 17 books, oh my god. Okay, here with me today that I read over the past 2 months. 2024, taking it by storm. So I hope you're all ready for this. But before that, I would like to take a moment and thank today's video sponsor, BetterHelp. Finding the right therapist can be a journey. I know that firsthand. However, my own experience with therapy was transformative once I found the right match. With BetterHelp, the process of finding a compatible therapist is made so much easier, and you can switch therapists without any extra cost until you find one that truly understands you. What is BetterHelp exactly? Well, BetterHelp is an online therapy platform with over 30,000 licensed therapists. It offers a space where you can become more mindful of your emotions and learn tools to better manage your anxiety or any other struggles you're facing. I know when I finally found the right therapist, it felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. I was able to finally better understand my feelings and become equipped with strategies to help handle life's challenges. You can start your journey with BetterHelp by visiting their website and answering a few questions. They'll match you with a licensed therapist who fits your specific needs, usually within 48 hours or less. I know life can be busy, but the convenience of accessing therapy from your home through chat, phone calls, or video makes it so much easier to fit it into your life. I encourage you to give BetterHelp a try, especially if you're new to therapy. It's an empowering step towards understanding yourself and finding that balance. And remember guys, prioritizing your mental health is a sign of strength, not weakness. To get 10% off your first month, you can use my link, betterhelp.com/Sara Elizabeth. This link will also be in the description. I couldn't have been more thrilled with this partnership because therapy is such a beneficial resource, so thank you so much BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. All right, settle in, grab a snack, maybe a coffee, yum. Let's get into the books I read, my ratings, my reviews, all spoiler free as always. I'm going to go in chronological order this time. I thought I'd switch things up, you know, go a little crazy. I started off December by reading 3 holiday rom-coms, each of which I won't stay on for too long because I filmed a whole separate reading vlog dedicated to these. If you have not seen that video, go check it out. I might be a bit biased, but I thought it was pretty fun. The first being Snowed In for Christmas by Jacqueline Snow, which is quite literally a snowstorm of romance between a sorority mom and a football coach who kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. I gave this 3 stars. It's pretty evident in that video that my main problem with this book was how our male love interest viewed our female MC. I felt like there was a power imbalance, and I don't really want to be reading about that in this day and age. He did grow as a character over the book, which good, love a character arc. But I just felt that his blatantly disrespectful views of Becca were just never properly acknowledged and were just brushed off. I don't see this couple lasting. It was still a cute story, but as a high maintenance girly myself, I felt personally attacked on Becca's half. Next, Just Like Magic by Sarah Hogel was so fun and unique, especially for a holiday book. Although this is a very festive book, like our male love interest is a holiday spirit in the flesh. That is not like the first thing that comes to mind when I think of this. With holiday novels, a lot of the time they can feel like they were just written for a quick buck. Like the author didn't really have an idea of what else to write, so they were like, hey, everyone likes Christmas. I'll just write a cute Christmas story, release it over the holidays, and bam, I'm set for the next 6 months. Which, you know, great, get your coin. But this holiday novel definitely stands on its own. I gave it 4 stars. The story was so wholesome and cute and comically absurd, making this such a different experience that I had a really fun time with. I finished off that video with Goldilocks and the Grumpy Bear by Casey West. Before you get ahead of yourself like I did, no, this is not a Goldilocks and the 3 Bears retelling. I'm still waiting for that story to exist. Hear me out, hear me out. Here's my Goldilocks pitch. Say we wanted to make it a romance, okay? We would start off with our down on our luck protagonist, Goldilocks, stumbling in the woods, maybe on the run from her past or something, I don't know, when she stumbles upon a cabin where 3 good-looking guys, maybe one of them's a girl, ooh, spicy, are currently residing, and they take her in because they're all good people, when suddenly sparks fly between Goldilocks and all of them. And so Goldilocks must figure out which one of them is just right. Publishers, you can hit me up, my email's in the description. Although the story was not exactly what I was expecting with the title, it was still very sweet and entertaining. The relationship dynamic in here was so healthy and refreshing to see. This is a novella, so it's pretty short. So just go ahead and do yourself a favor and add this to your TBR. Why not? You can have a little cozy afternoon, read this all in one sitting, sip on a hot chocolate while you're at it, thank me later. Okay, so I picked up Believe Me by J.P. Delaney because I heard good things about the audiobook, and this was over a day that I had a lot of chores to do, a lot of packing for winter break. So I just wanted something for my mind to munch on. And boy, did this deliver? I ate this up. Started this at 9 a.m., finished it at 11 p.m. In this thriller, we start off with our girl Claire at a bar, flirting with a married man. Why? Because it's her job. If you don't believe me, gotta make that joke every time I hold up this book, okay? Yeah, Claire gets paid to be a decoy for a firm divorce lawyer by catching lying spouses. But when the wife of one of Claire's clients is murdered, Claire's enlisted to get close to the husband to see if he did it. However, in doing so, things don't exactly go to plan. I'm going to leave it at that. I think it's best not to know anything else. The audiobook for this is fantastic. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Like, the details that went into it were so stunning and thought out. For example, whenever two of the characters were speaking on the phone, each individual voice sounded like it was coming through each ear. So it felt like you were in the middle holding up two phones, just eavesdropping on their conversation. I don't know why you need two phones, but it was a cool experience. There's also different voice actors for the characters, sound effects, and up until halfway, I was like, I don't know what all these negative reviews I heard about this novel were on about. This is a great book. I'm engaged. And then the ending came. Actually, it did not. After I finished the book and was thinking back on it, I was just scratching my head, confused, because the reveal did not make sense in some aspects. The big twist was very clever, but I have so many questions. The actual story, 3 stars. But the audiobook, 4 stars. So I decided to land in the middle and rate this a 3.5. I would only really recommend this in audio form, but this is a great example of a really immersive experience that other audiobooks should aspire to be. Not me personifying books. The Overnight Guest by Heather Gudenkoff. You know, before I picked this up, I saw Lily Reed's DNF this, and that should have been a red flag. I should have listened. But I just thought that maybe the book would get better as it went on. Obviously, that was not the case. This ended up being a 2-star read. This was so disappointing. And I wanted to give this book the benefit of the doubt, but then I reread the synopsis and I was like, actually no, Sarah, your feelings are valid. The synopsis predominantly focuses on the storyline of this writer at this house where she discovers a child face planted outside in the snow. And when I read that, I was intrigued, but that did not last long because half of the story takes place in the summer and follows a completely different storyline that does loosely tie into the present day storyline, but it was boring and I did not care about it. And those chapters in the past felt drawn out because the whole time I was reading them, I was just waiting to get back to what I actually signed up for. Look, it wasn't absolutely terrible. In particular, I found the setting to be described very vividly, but you can find that in a lot of other books. So this can be a skip. After finishing that book, I thought to myself, Sarah, I need a book that I will not feel like I wasted my time with, a book that I can gain something from. And so I picked up Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austen. One of my favorite covers of 2023. Yeah, solely because of the rabbit. I will say something grim does happen to the rabbit. You can probably guess from that title. Our protagonist in here is Gilda, who has a bit of an unhealthy obsession with death, to the point where her anxiety causes her to frequent the ER and establish a first name basis with the janitor. Just typical girly things. But you know, Gilda is trying to work on herself, so after she gets let off from her job, she jumps at the first opportunity presented to her, being a receptionist at a Catholic church. Never mind that she is gay and an atheist, they never asked, so she didn't offer it up. There's also a side plot in here that follows the mysterious death of the previous receptionist, which I appreciated. I love an undertone of mystery. This is definitely a woman living her life type of story, but actually interesting things happen. What a concept. Not to call out other books, but sometimes those kinds of novels can be kind of dull. I believe I gave this 4.25 stars. I'm going to have to check on that. Out of all of the sad girl type books I've read, this one's definitely my favorite. If you don't know what I mean by that, it's hard to explain, but you'll know once you read a book with that kind of theme. Usually it involves sad girls like myself. Emily Austen made such a grim, taboo topic enjoyable and funny. This is a book that I can't imagine reading anything else similar to it again. It's definitely one of a kind. So if you want a very atypical book, this one's it. I'm probably the last person to pick this book up. This was like a bestseller a couple of years ago. Well, at least it seemed that way, given the way Barnes advertised this. The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. I gave 3.5 stars. This is a book that you definitely have to suspend your disbelief with, which I'm fine doing in some cases, but where I draw the line is when the writing feels lazy. For example, in this novel, we have these sisters, right, who swap lives in order to help each other out. So don't you think they would want to check up on each other to make sure the other isn't screwing anything up? But no, that would have required some more thought to be put into the plot. So, whoopsie daisy, I guess the sisters are going to have to lose their phones, and when they do find a phone, they keep missing each other's calls. And this miscommunication doesn't just last a few days. No, it goes on the whole book. And before the switch, these sisters were very invested in their individual lives. But now that they have just given it away, they suddenly don't care anymore. Huh. I will say that what this book does really well is showing how fake reality TV is. And this story is centered around a reality baking TV show, which to me seems like one of the more genuine types of reality TV. But no, it's all fake. The chef just pulled out her world famous quiche. Yeah, she didn't make it, her assistant did, from a recipe she found on Pinterest yesterday. I don't know why I find characters cooking or baking so interesting, but I do. And there's a lot of that in here, which I obviously enjoyed. It did deliver on the small town bakery setting aspect, but the writing was a little stale in my opinion. I have kind of dubbed December the mediocre month for thrillers. No One Can Know by Kate Alice Marshall was my book of the month choice for December, which I did actually read in December. Thank you, thank you. I know, such an achievement. Although I gave this 3 stars, that's a solid rating for a thriller. This was nothing to write home about, maybe to an estranged cousin or something, I don't know. In this book we have Emma, who is pregnant. Wow, such an uncommon thing to see in a thriller. Emma's past is a bit of a big question mark to her husband. She doesn't really talk about it. All he knows is that something tragic happened in Emma's childhood and her parents are dead. But when Emma's husband gets laid off, things start to get a bit tight. So they decide to move into Emma's parents' old house that she co-owns with her sisters. However, returning means accusations in the town are going to resurface about how Emma allegedly murdered her parents. I do have a question for Miss Marshall. How does Emma and her husband end up getting married in the first place? These two clearly don't know each other. Now that I've got that out in the open, the writing in here was very good. It was well paced. I was immersed into the story, so it's evident that this author is very talented. And maybe this was just me, maybe I was having an off day or something, but the ending felt so convoluted. I had to keep rereading passages to understand the characters' thought processes. It felt like the author didn't quite know how she wanted to end the book. For most of the book though, it was pretty good. So I'd be open to reading more from this author, and I know that she has written another book that I cannot recall at this moment, but have seen circulating in the book community. I'd be curious to know your thoughts on that if you've read it. And look, I don't need to be gooped and gabbed at every twist and turn, but I would just like something a little more than what this gave. I ended December with one of the most heartwarming stories I read all year, Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Tashikatsu Kabugachi, which was my one and only 5-star of the month. At least it ended on a good note. This novel is emotional, insightful, a book that I would personally recommend to my friends and family. You know, some of the books I read to an outsider, they kind of might seem a little questionable. I don't know what books those would be, but this is a book that I feel like a lot of people can't help but love and take something away from. This book heavily relies on magical realism. It's a magic time traveling cafe, for Christ's sake. And although the magic is nonsensical, the book's not about the magic. The magic is just there to spread the message. My biggest takeaway from here was how important it is to live in the moment. This book almost feels like a short story collection because it is told over 4 vignettes, but I thought it worked super well. The author intertwines all the stories fantastically, and you don't really fully consciously realize it until you get to those little snippets that tie in each story. I loved everything about this book. If you have not read this, please go pick this up. I couldn't have kicked off 2024 better than with this next book, Not So Perfect Strangers by Ella Stratton. This was also a 5-star. I buddy read this with a friend of mine, and when I went into this, after my mediocre month of thrillers, my expectations were understandably not that high. But what I was not expecting, and I'm sorry that for even one moment I thought this might be otherwise, is such a sheer entertaining, nuanced thriller. This is a story of 2 women who are each going through it, but after meeting by chance, a little arrangement is made between the 2 of them, which may or may not involve getting rid of each other's husbands. I don't know, you're gonna have to read it for yourself, okay? This is a dual perspective novel with developed and different main characters. There are so many pieces to this book that you follow throughout and are trying to simultaneously figure out. And while reading this, you may be like,
I know how the story will play out.
And then consequently feel like a fool when it doesn't. Not once did I see that ending coming. It's not the most amazing, wow, in your face type of ending, but it's definitely unique and unexpected. This is also a debut novel. The talent, I will definitely be checking out more from this author in the future. Ella Stratton, I'm going to need more from you. Oh my God, she is literally gorgeous. Wow. Jealous. 5 Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards. I picked up to read because snow. It's winter. If I am anything, I am a seasonal reader. This book kicks off with 5 young adults stranded at an airport where all flights are delayed due to a blizzard wreaking havoc outside. So do you know what these kids, excuse me, young adults do? They're like, hey, since we're all headed in the same direction, why don't we just rent a car and drive through the blizzard together? Sure, I just met you, but you know, you seem chill enough. Nothing could possibly go wrong. It's not like one of the passengers is like a stalker and stalking our main character or something. Oh wait, yeah, that's what's actually going on. I gave this 3 stars. I want to start off by saying that I really enjoyed how the author wrote the journey these characters went on. I didn't feel like I was stuck in the car the whole time. There were also a few really engaging scenes that I could not stop reading. Dinner had to wait a few minutes because I needed to finish those chapters, but I don't even remember our character's name. I don't even remember her name. Forgettable much, yeah. I feel like the side characters were more interesting than our MC, and they weren't even that fleshed out, honestly. Also, you know when you sink so much time into a book and then the ending hits and there's not much payout? That is how this book felt. The ending is quite abrupt and there's not much of a conclusion. This did take place on Christmas Eve though. So actually that didn't really add that much to the story. Sunshine Ales I read audibly and gave 2 stars. I am realizing now that a lot of these books I did not rate the highest, which is kind of sad. I don't think this was a bad book per se, but it also took me 3 months to finish it, so I have to take that into account. This book takes place in Toronto, where we follow a Vietnamese Canadian family and their nail salon in a neighborhood slowly changing by way of gentrification. And when a new flashy high-end nail salon opens up right across the street, the Tran family will do whatever it takes to protect their livelihood. But in doing so, relationships are put to the test, some sabotaging goes on, all good stuff, all good stuff. Let's start with the positives. This book does a great job of showing how incoming upscale businesses can negatively impact family businesses, historic sites, and the neighborhood environment. And the portrayal of a close-knit, kind of dysfunctional family was spot on. However, none of the characters I particularly liked. My favorite was probably the cousin who was staying with the immediate family, and she ended up backstabbing them in the back, so I don't know what that says about me. I love my family. I do appreciate how this book tackled such a matter in a lighthearted way, because not every book needs to be a heart-wrenching tale. Not everyone likes that. I can't see why you wouldn't, but that's just me. This book dragged. The stakes were there, but they did not feel very high. I think that can partially be contributed to how this book follows so many different plots. Each POV had its own plot, and we followed everyone in this family, okay? After switching POVs each chapter, each plot was just felt dragged out for so long. There are many aspects in here that I usually like in novels, such as characters with a strong work ethic, a unique setting, but the overall execution was just not for me. Thrive by Krista Beccarici. One of my goals for 2024 is to finish the Addicted series. At the pace I'm reading these novels now, I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but you know what would have helped that endeavor is if this novel didn't exist. I'm going to be frank, this did not need to exist. And this is coming from a person who gave this 4 stars, so I clearly enjoyed my time with it, but I had already read 80% of what happens in here just from a different POV. This book is basically what happened in the Calloway sisters spin-off novels, except this time from Lily and Lo's POV. While reading this, I kept thinking to myself, wow, this must have been really easy to write. And I don't want to think that when I'm reading a book. I want to read books that I couldn't have written myself. I could have written this, okay? The characters saved this book. They have my heart, all of my heart, especially Rose and Connor. Rose and Connor, yeah. They have some of the best comebacks, and the timing of them is always perfect. I couldn't have written those comebacks. I can't give myself that much credit. I'm excited to see where the series will go, but I'm just hoping and praying that we do not get another Thrive, as in a Thrive 2.0. Another series I want to read more from, hopefully very soon, is the Brutal Birthright series by Sophie Lark. I picked up and read Savage Lover last month. These books are so addicting. They're so addicting. And they're such a fast read, which makes me just want to pick up the next book even more. I gave this book 4 stars. I honestly did not know what this book was about before I picked it up. It was just the next book in the series. So when it started off talking about cars, I was like, hold on. I was not expecting Fast and Furious. But okay, I guess I'm down. And then this should have been a shoo-in 5-star new all-time favorite read, because I am a sucker for a heist. In books and movies, give it to me. Yes, Ocean's 11 was my heist awakening, but Sophie Lark did some things in here that I just can't get behind. For example, let's talk about Camille, our female MC. Camille does not realize her worthiness until she's actually in a relationship and sees that Nero loves her. It's only then that she goes, oh, I guess I'm not worthless after all. No, girl, you are beautiful, amazing, stunning, worthy, single, married, in any shape and form. Also, this novel took Fast and Furious vibes way too seriously. The ending was quite fast. I did not like it. It felt underdeveloped. However, I still thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I cannot wait to read the next novels in the series and get to know the characters that we haven't gotten to know. I'm kind of sad about this next novel because a friend of mine recommended it to me, The Dinner by Herman Koch, and I'm still on the fence on whether I want to rate this a 2.5 or 3. I rated it a 3 on Goodreads because I always round up, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But since this is a translated piece, originally from Dutch, I have to remind myself that I can't critique this book through the same lens that I would a US novel, because different countries are going to have their own standards and way of storytelling. I can also explain this concept through the example of films from different countries. Hi, film student here. If we compare French films, which are known for their slower plot lines, strong character development, and not so happy endings, to a blockbuster, fast-paced Hollywood happy ever after type movie, those two movies are going to be very different. Is one better than the other? No, not necessarily. Different countries just have their own format to storytelling. The norm is going to differ place to place. And story formats are obviously not a one-size-fits-all, but it's still important to be mindful when critiquing books from different countries. Okay, PSA over. This thriller is narrated by Paul and spans over a course of a dinner between Paul and his wife and his brother slash sister-in-law. Now, Paul's brother is a questionable character. He's kind of a sleazy politician. So Paul understandably does not like his brother all that much, but family is family. And as the dinner progresses and tension builds, the conversation switches to why they gathered in the first place to talk about a crime committed by members in the family and figure out what to do about it. I really enjoyed the formatting of this book. The sections of the book follow from, and I quote, apéritif. That's kind of good, right? French really coming through. To digestif. This book really went, yeah, we're having a 5-course meal. To me, that just sounds physically painful. Earlier in this video, I was complaining about bland characters. RMC in here is definitely not one of those. He is the opposite of a caricature, and I still don't fully know how to feel about him, but I think that was the point. He is so unlike any character I've ever read from. I didn't like, however, how he would just omit random information. He'd be like, oh, you don't need to know that, or that information's personal. I'm literally reading this book to find out your personal information. The narration also turned very stream of conscious, like halfway through. Also, certain events felt random in the context of the characters and like not much thought was put into them. At the end of the novel, when the author was talking a bit about the book, he actually admitted in his book that he never writes outlines. May I suggest you start doing so? That's like the first step to any piece of writing. I know that, and I am not a writer. I don't think this was the author's intent, but I felt like this book perpetuated racial stereotypes by pigeonholing urban blacks into 2 categories, streetwise or white aspirants. But then I don't know, because some people say this whole book is satire, but that raises the question, where do you draw the line at something being satirical versus perpetuating what it's trying to comment on in the first place? That's something to think about. I've seen this be compared to Gone Girl. Don't know where that came from. This book had potential, but if I was given the option to read this for the first time again, I wouldn't. They're Vicious Games by Joelle Wellington. I wasn't planning on reading so soon, but I needed a book with there in the title for the Buzzword Readathon, and I was like, hey, this would be perfect. And it was. I stayed up till 3 a.m. finishing this. That is how you know you've read a good book. In this novel, we follow Adina Walker, who has recently lost her spot at an Ivy League college. In hopes of regaining attendance, she joins a competition called The Finish, which promises wealth and notoriety. But this competition is nothing like she expected, as the contestants quite literally fight to the death. I love how big of a role female rage is in this book. Each character bears some form of rage towards society they so desperately want to fit into but are ultimately oppressed by. I also loved Adina's character. She's driven and not as afraid to speak her mind, but is also deeply compassionate, which does become her biggest dilemma once she learns what the competition actually entails. The author did a great job of commentating on society while also keeping to the theme of the book, but still giving the commentary the attention it needed. This novel has so much to it. The ending got kind of unhinged in the best way possible, but it was like a warranted unhinged ending. I definitely saw the Squid Game comparisons, but more so if Squid Games was set at an English manor in the 50s. I would also argue that this definitely has some Hunger Games and Get Out vibes. I could probably list a whole bunch of other pieces of work that remind me of this. I didn't even tell you my rating. 5 stars. Okay. And then lastly, I finally picked up The First Shot to Read by Liv Constantine, the prequel to The Last Mrs. Parrish, which basically just dives into Amber's, one of the characters in that book, past. Basically everything that was left unsaid about Amber's backstory was explained in here. Well, maybe not everything, but a lot of it is. Liv Constantine has this way of relaying a story in such a gripping way, so I was invested. I read this in one sitting. It's just over 100 pages, so that wasn't very hard to do. And so there's not much to dislike in here, which made rating it particularly hard. I gave this 3.5 stars because there was certain information that was not revealed until the very end for no reason at all. It would have made much more sense if this character that I'm thinking of revealed this information earlier on, but no, they chose not to for no reason, and instead put themselves through this unnecessary anguish that they could have avoided in the first place. I must say, girly, that was not very smart. Amber is such a fascinating individual. She is definitely not the most likable character, but she comes from humble beginnings, and her aspirations and work ethic are kind of admirable in a messed up way that you can't help but root for. I almost forgot. I saw on Goodreads a sequel is coming to The Last Mrs. Parrish. So excited. I think it's called like The Next Mrs. Parrish or something. Don't know when it's happening, but I just saw it on Goodreads and I needed to let y'all know because that was news to me. Those were the 17 books I read over these past 2 months. Let me know how you liked the chronological format of this video compared to the least favorite to favorite format I typically do. I don't really have an opinion either way, so I'll do what majority prefers, or if you have another format that you want to see, I could do that. Let me know down in the comments your favorite book from January or December, either month, or just what you read and your thoughts, or maybe your least favorite book if we want to be really negative. Hey, I'd still like to hear it. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Y'all know what to do. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. It really does help me my channel out a lot. You can also comment, interact, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. I'd really appreciate it. I'm wishing you all the best for your reading in February, the month of love, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.